30 days, baby. 30 days away from week 0 of the college football season getting rolling, and by definition, the 2024 college football season being off the races. How awesome is this, man? It's here, baby. Like we have walked through this desert of the offseason for the better part of however many months that we've been walking through it since confetti dropped in Houston. Now we're here, right on the doorstep of another beautiful thing that is the college football season. We're glad to have y'all here, man. It is Thursday, July 25th, 2024. The last one on the face of the planet. Going to make it a great one. Glad to have y'all a part of this. As I mentioned, a ton to jump into. We're going to talk about the most difficult offenses to defend in the college football landscape in 2024. We're going to talk about what Matt Rhule had to say about the Big Ten. And he said, hey, listen, I think we should have 4 teams in the college football playoff every single year. Sue me. He didn't add the sue me part onto that, so don't sue Matt Rhule. I would probably recommend not suing, period. But what do we think about that? Twitter ran with that quote, man. I mean, they just took off with it. I don't think it's nearly as crazy as Twitter would lead you to believe. We'll unpack that a little bit more together. Pat McAfee's back on game day, baby. I think that's a win for college football. Some folks in that athletic poll did not feel that way, so we'll unpack that together, why I think that's a win for college football. Nico Iamaleava, the Nico era. It's Nico time, baby. It's Nico time in Knoxville. What's that offense going to look like with him running the show? Newsflash, I think it'll look a little bit different than it did a season ago with Joe Milton operating there, not just from a skill set perspective, but from a how they use the quarterback perspective. So we'll break that down together in a little bit more detail. Man, this is awesome. You can't help but smile a little bit, man. We got college football right around the corner. So grateful to have you all a part of this. So grateful to have you all tuned in. If you're watching live on the YouTube channel, shouts to y'all. Y'all are some real ones, dialed in, whether you're at work, whether you are at the gym getting a little early morning workout in and got us playing on the YouTube channel. Appreciate you for that. If you're listening back on podcast, we love you too because you made time. I said it yesterday. Good coaches will tell you, man, if it matters to you, you make time. So we appreciate you having this show matter to y'all. I put this call out to action yesterday and got a few responses in the comments section, but I want to do it again at the top of the show so we hear from more of y'all. What are you doing while you listen to this show or while you watch this show? A lot of y'all play us at the gym. A lot of y'all play us when you're at work. Just let us know specifically what you're doing while you're enjoying this program because we enjoy y'all being a part of this program. So I mentioned all the things that we're going to get to. I want to start with this, though. We have a beautiful college football season ahead of us. Every single week, I think, is perfectly and intricately orchestrated to be what it is. But with that being said, man, you look at week 7, that Saturday slate for October 12th, that's going to be special. I want to set the scene a little bit here. You walk out. It's a crisp October morning. Starts to feel like run-the-ball weather outside. You get your Chick-fil-A breakfast if you're like me. Maybe you go do something else for breakfast. No judgment here. It's pumpkin spice season for all my Starbucks people. Yeah, we celebrate that here as well. You're locking in all your final bets. You're watching the line move. You're locking in your prize picks plays. And you're about to enjoy one of the greatest, I believe the greatest week of this upcoming college football season as we sit here in July. Like that Reese Davis monologue when he lets it go over however many screaming college students that are sleep deprived because they stayed up all night for college game day at whatever campus they're at or whatever venue they're at. Little Easter egg there. It's going to be electric. My wife and I were pregnant, having a baby girl a little bit later in the fall. Shouts to my baby girl, man. Not coming until a little bit later in the college football season, so we're dialed in for this one, man. Watching this one not from a hospital room. What does college game day do for this? Like they're the ones that are going to have some real moves to make here because you got Ohio State at Oregon that day, and you also have Red River that day. So I said they might be on a campus or they could be out there in Dallas yet again, and they've been in Dallas a few times. Red River going to be at 3:30 Eastern, ABC, ESPN. Oklahoma, man, they're coming into this game. They could be fresh off a couple of SEC battles, man. Like they could definitely be undefeated. We'll see what they end up being when they walk into this game, but they play Tennessee and they're at Auburn before their bye week heading into this game. So Oklahoma, to put it simply, they will be battle tested. Make no mistake about it. They will have walked through a few fires of adversity before they play Texas. Now Texas, they have to go to Michigan in week 2. They have Georgia the week after Red River. No rest for the weary, man. You play Oklahoma and turn around, and when you know it, you probably play the best team in college football in the Georgia Bulldogs. Is this a look-ahead spot for them? Probably not, because the rivalry is so intense, but how do you walk into this game psychologically? Great Big 12. No, not Big 12. SEC rivalry. Little rebrand for the folks out there in Dallas, Texas. It's going to be a lot of fun. That game in itself will be cinematic for the storyline side of it, with both teams moving into the SEC for the brands that they are, and we always, get fired up when we have Oklahoma and Texas playing each other. But on that same day, like I said, you have Ohio State and Oregon. Y'all, that might be the highest-ranked matchup of the whole day. 2 top 5 teams as we sit here right now in July. Like, I'm assuming you're going to have Big Noon on that call. Joel Klatt, Gus Johnson on the call for you there. Is Ohio State really like that? We'll find out in this game. Do they have the national championship chops? Not to say that if they lose this game, they don't have those, but this will be the best litmus test for us of Ohio State to this point in the season. Now, for Oregon, they're entering into the Big Ten, and we're trying to see how they measure up. Because I've told you for a long time here, I think Oregon has been a Big Ten team really for the better part of the last couple of seasons. They just haven't had the sticker on the helmet. They get to prove it in this game. Autzen will be on fire. You'll have 2 great quarterbacks going at it, and Dylan Gabriel and Will Howard, in my opinion, both that I think are getting a fair amount of disrespect heading into the season. I'm sure they'll use that to their advantage. 2 of the best rosters in the Big Ten, if not all of college football, with massive college football playoff and Big Ten title race implications. Like, take your pick there, man. Take your pick. Either hand is the upper hand, to quote our friend Aubrey Graham. And then on that same day, it doesn't stop there. I mean, the hits just keep on coming, baby. It's Florida at Tennessee. And Florida, man, shouts to Florida, man, wherever you're at. Florida could be walking into this game either in YOLO mode, because they have a tough slate ahead of them, or behind them, rather, before they get into this game. They play Miami to start the year. They play A&M before this game. They could be there with 2 losses and saying, all right, baby, nothing to lose. Let's go get them, boys. Let's roll into Knoxville. Let's wreak havoc. Or the other side of that is Florida could roll in there with a little bit of momentum with a win over, let's just say, one of those teams. Got some confidence. I think I got my swagger back. That could be Florida walking into this game. And a confident Florida team with some momentum, playing for their head coach, who everyone was talking smack about this past offseason, that could be dangerous. Could be very, very dangerous, because Florida, we all know it, they have given Tennessee issues in recent history. Now, Tennessee, they could be walking into this game undefeated. We could be slowly but surely starting to look at Nico Iamaleava, excuse me. I really thought we had that pronunciation down. I think we do, but, you got to kind of tighten the screws every now and then. We could be looking at young Nico and saying, man, is he going to be a Heisman guy? I mean, Tennessee's rolling right now. That offense is humming. I'm assuming that Tennessee, if they are undefeated heading into this game, it probably means that he's playing at a really high level and that offense is scoring points in bunches. Game day, I'm just saying, you probably have to look at that one too. This might be the show stealer, though. On this same day, man, you have Ole Miss at LSU. And y'all, like, when we're wrong, when we're off on something, those of y'all that have tuned into this show for any length of time, like, we call it out, hand up on us, no way around it. We should have been at this game last year. We should have. We had credentials to go to it. We were trying to plot out our course to get to that game and the way back, and at last minute ended up going somewhere else. And our experience was great going to the other game as well. But you watched this game end, and you saw how many points were scored, and you saw the field storming, and you're like, golly, that would have been cool. It would have been very, very cool. Well, they run it back this year in Death Valley. We already know it's going to be a night game. Both have a very solid chance, I think, to walk into this game undefeated. Both have college football playoff hopes intact, I believe, either way heading into this game. Even if they aren't undefeated, it's going to be a massive swing game for not just their SEC title hopes, but looking at their college football playoff hopes. I think 10-2 gets you in the dance. LSU, they start with USC. Right now, I'd lean LSU, but let's say they drop that game. You're walking into this one saying, okay, like, hey, we don't have too many more mulligans to give, boys. Ole Miss, like, same deal. I think they'll be in a good spot heading into this game. They don't have as many. They don't have a USC on the slate before they end up playing LSU. But even so, man, like, this is what you have built for this year for Ole Miss. This is the game now. This is the game where you really start to get rolling and start to find your stride to play your best ball later in the year. This is the starting line for that. And then casually, in addition to all those games, you just kind of lob in there a new Big Ten matchup. Hey, by the way, Penn State at USC. Just do with that what you want to. Do with that what you want to. If you have a wedding this day, shout out to y'all. I appreciate y'all for getting married, but I'm sure your guests do not appreciate you having a wedding on October 12th. It is what it is. Penn State's thinking playoff this year, man. I've told you many times. You look at the schedule for them, and like they should be 11-1. They should. You got Ohio State at the crib, and that's it. But this game going to the Coliseum, if we think USC is just going to roll over and play dead, I promise you they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Like, a lot of things being said about Lincoln Riley and a Lincoln Riley defense, which, again, is just a funny thing to say because Lincoln Riley is in charge of the offense. He doesn't really coach the defense. I understand you're the CEO. You're responsible for the team. I digress. New defensive staff out there. What if USC defends home turf, sends Penn State home with an L, and we're like, whoa, okay. Well, Penn State goes to Wisconsin and they play Ohio State. Like, what's this looking like for Penn State? Are they going to miss the playoff? Is USC maybe now that team out of the Big Ten? I'm just saying, man, we get all of this on the same day. That's absolutely ridiculous. That's absolutely unbelievable. I cannot wait for this. And then to throw one more thing in the mix here, Big 12, stand up. Stand up, Big 12. You got some big games on this day, too. Arizona at BYU, Kansas State at Colorado. Right now, those games don't have the same juice as Ohio State and Oregon, but who's to say now? Who's to say that we're not looking at that Saturday, the Friday going into it, and saying, man, I can't wait to watch Kansas State and Colorado. I can't wait to watch Arizona BYU. Who's to say those teams aren't undefeated? I'm just saying, who's to say we don't get a battle of the unbeatens in one of those matchups and it ends up kind of stealing the show from that day. We don't know what we don't know. October's a long way away. But golly, this is one of those Saturdays you look at when it's out there on the horizon. You're like, gosh, just get me to Saturday. Get me to Saturday. Get me to Friday afternoon where I know I'm about to wake up and have one of the best Saturdays of my entire fall, and we're going to be in good shape. It's one of those deals where you're just like, I love college football. It's going to be an incredible week of the season. Week 7, again, October 12th. Mark your calendars. Block it off. Tell everyone you're busy. Tell them you can't hang out. You can't do this. You can't do that. We got plans. We're watching ball that day. All right? So let's lock in. Let's lock in. Appreciate everyone tuned in live, man. Got a lot of y'all dialed in on this beautiful Thursday morning. Glad to have you here. Got a lot to get to, man. Still going to talk about the Tennessee offense. Still going to talk about Deshaun Foster and what he had to say or didn't have to say about UCLA. And, man, that was tough, man. That was tough to watch. We're not going to talk about that right now, but that was tough to watch. Before we get to that, I want to talk about the toughest offenses to defend in 2024. Let's restart that clip so we have a fresher start here, Nick. I want to talk about the toughest offenses to defend in 2024. Now, when we talk about toughest offenses to defend, we're speaking more specifically to the scheme. Personnel factors in, obviously, because it's about the Jimmies and Joes. But let's take a look at the X's and O's for a second here, man. Who will be the most difficult offenses to defend schematically this upcoming season? I think whenever you have this conversation, you would be irresponsible to not talk about the Wizard of Austin, which is, of course, Steve Sarkisian. Last year, they averaged 36 points a game. Keep in mind now, a handful of games during the season, they did not have their starting quarterback, so they had to find different ways to win, which is also probably a testament to Steve Sarkisian. They found ways to get it done without their QB1. I digress. The reason why Texas is so difficult to defend outside of just the players they have on that offense is what they do pre-snap. If you go back and watch the Alabama game, you'll see a lot of pre-snap shifts, especially from the wide receivers. Like they're changing their splits, they're changing their alignment, and when you're watching the broadcast, you're just like, okay, they're getting set, or they're getting reset, or they're checking to something. And while, at a face value level, that's true, as a defense, that is so difficult because whatever you just had called, depending on what you're running defensively, there's a chance now that you have to hit the reset button yourself. And when you're having to hit the reset button a few seconds before the snap, there is a higher likelihood that you're out of position. And we saw that multiple times for Texas against Alabama in week 2. I mean, it was catch him out of position, deep shot to Xavier Worthy. Like, there's a reason why he was as open as he was. Some of it's because Xavier Worthy is really freaking fast. The other part of it is there was a little bit of a coverage bust, a misalignment from Alabama in that game. Not because Alabama's bad on defense last year. It was more so because of what Texas did and what they dictated pre-snap. You think about Texas, you think about Sark, you think about quarterback play. That's not unfair to think about. But make no mistake about it, man. Like, Texas tough is a fair label to put on this operation out there. It is. Like, they want to run the football. If Steve Sarkisian can sit back there and run inside zone and run power and then run wide zone, like, he will do that all day long. He doesn't need to put up stats at the quarterback position. He's more than fine just making you say uncle and pounding the rock. Now, when they do that, when they have success running the football like they did a season ago and like I think they'll have again this upcoming year with the offensive line returning production, with C.J. Baxter back, they're going to have a chance now to have the RPO game start to kick up a little bit more as well. So, again, if he can run the football, they'll do that. But when those linebackers start to commit, boom, Jonte Cook right behind you. Boom, Isaiah Bond right behind you. Linebacker steps up, leave some real estate behind you. Quinn Ewers deliver a dart. We're off to the races and we're running. Because as a linebacker, man, you get tired of having to fill that hole for a 3-yard gain, 4-yard gain. At a certain point, you're like, man, forget this. I mean, I'm putting my face mask down. I see my key. I'm filling that hole. Like, let's go. Get a little bit over-aggressive. When that happens, again, that's when big plays happen for Steve Sarkisian. The last thing they do really effectively, Steve Sarkisian, and a lot of offensive coordinators do this, but I think Texas does it as well, if not better than anybody else. He will have a lot of counter plays off of staple plays. And what I mean by that is you will see Texas have a specific motion or a specific look offensively, and they'll gash with it a few times. And then they'll go tempo, line up in that same kind of looking play. The defense thinks they knows what's happening, and then something else happens the other way because instead of throwing that bubble, it's the bubble go. Instead of throwing that slant, it's the slant go. And so, I mean, they're masters of deception. Sark is one of the best in the business, period, much less offensively. And we're going to see that again this upcoming season. Just super difficult to defend. Now, Oregon is also in this conversation for me. I think they're one of the most difficult offenses to defend. Man, shout out to Will Stein. From UTSA, Will Stein. I think he is a head coach waiting to happen, to be honest with y'all. This is the number here I want us to all pay attention to. Last year for Oregon, the sack rate of their entire season was 1% of the snaps. It was an MC Hammer kind of offense. Can't touch this, all right? That was the mantra for Bo Nix. The reason why, yes, the offensive line was really good. There's no way around that. In addition, though, like Bo Nix knew where he was going with the football really quickly. This offense is designed to have your quarterback get the ball to playmakers and do it in a very, very quick fashion. Like, we're not sitting back there waiting for that big, mean edge rusher to get after us. Like, that's one of the reasons why I love this offense in 2024. In addition to that, they scored 41 points a game because of the playmakers they had on the perimeter. Get it to your players in space, let them be special, not much more to it, right? Now, this upcoming season for Oregon, they quietly, maybe not so quietly, have one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. With Tez Johnson back, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. Evan Stewart, everybody and their mama wanted him in the portal. All right, they got some dudes. Trayshawn Holden, like they got some guys now to deliver the football to. They're going to make plays. Now, the thing that Oregon does well, when they get you rocking and rolling because they've thrown the bubble, they've put it out on the perimeter, they've got the defense running sideline to sideline. Well, when you're running all over creation, they're just going to go, all right, now we're Big Ten mode. Now we're going north and south. Now Jordan James is coming downhill at you. Now Jay Harris is coming downhill at you. They got some backs, too, to make that happen. Dylan Gabriel, I don't know that he is a Bo Nix kind of runner, but he is also, and what I mean by that is Bo Nix is probably a little bit more of a, he is a bigger athlete than a Dylan Gabriel. But when Dylan Gabriel tucks it and runs now, like, one, he's more than capable of delivering the shoulder, and he's also a good athlete to make something happen in space. You saw that a lot at Oklahoma for him last year. So they were effective last year because of what they did schematically and because of the players that were able to execute. Same deal this year. The experience Dylan Gabriel has, his physical attributes, he's going to be able to make this thing hum. Oregon, go ahead and put them down for 38 to 40 points a game yet again in 2024. Now, Tennessee, we're going to talk about a little bit more in-depthly later in the show. But, man, they are so hard to defend. Like, schematically, I promise you, there's defensive coordinators all over the SEC that are looking at that Tennessee logo on their schedule and like, golly, man, we got it. All right, that we're gonna do this, Coach Hype. Okay, all right, we'll defend you if you're gonna make us do that. The reason why they're so hard to defend is because the way that they align, and we've talked about this a lot on this show, they make you cover every single blade of grass. The football field is 53.3 yards in width, sideline to sideline. Tennessee says we're taking all that space, lining our wide receivers up darn near to the hash marks, darn near to the tick marks, rather, excuse me. And so when that happens, it's very difficult to give a cornerback safety help. Like, it's hard for a corner to be able to fill in the run and then also be able to get back around and try and defend the over-the-head pass there, or the over-the-top pass, rather. And so what happens is you're pretty much stuck in man-to-man. Like, the way to defend this, and Georgia did it well a couple of seasons ago when they were on that run, is to play really solid man coverage, have lockdown corners. Easier said than done with the way that Tennessee recruits the quarterback position and the wide receiver position. So the other thing that factors in here for Tennessee is the tempo they play with. That's a massive equalizer, because you can't get organized as a defense. Very, very tough to get organized because we're going so quickly. We're running a play every 20 seconds. At that point, you can't sub. You can only sub as a defense if we sub. So we either have to fake an injury, which it's unfortunate, but I guess it's the gamesmanship of it, or you have to call timeout. You don't really want to waste a timeout during a drive that Tennessee's rolling on when it's early on in the first half. You want to keep those for a little bit later in the game, but it is what it is. So you get disorganized, and also you get worn down. Like, we all know this, the human brain, when we become fatigued, starts to operate at a lower capacity. It's hard to remember your keys. It's hard to be in position. It's hard to have good technique. And so Tennessee, as well-conditioned as they are, that's when they really start to take advantage of you. So they're going to score a lot of points. Yet again, the added bonus for them this year, in my mind, is what Nico will bring to the run game. And again, we're going to break this offense down for Tennessee a little bit more intricately later on in this show. But the fact that you have someone who is a real deal threat to run the football at quarterback now, much like you did with Hendon Hooker, you get an extra blocker on design quarterback runs because the running back can now add in, and you already have a lighter box to run to. So that's going to be a factor, and that's going to give defenses fits because, again, they're already spread out trying to defend the pass, and then wouldn't you know it, Nico is running for 7 yards, maybe more, depending on what you have dialed up there. Now, Georgia, they're a little bit scary this year. They're always scary, but I think what's scary about them is typically Georgia, they love to be that 12 personnel. And you hear that said a lot on broadcasts and, those X and O shows. What is 12 personnel? 12 is speaking to the number of running backs and tight ends on the field. The first number is the running back. The second number is the tight ends. So one running back, two tight ends. You put it together, looks like a 12. Pretty straightforward. So when Georgia has 2 tight ends on the field, they're dangerous because the way that Georgia recruits the tight end position, they're able to block as well as be a threat in the pass game at a really high level. Like, typically when you have a tight end out there, it's a big body. You're trying to add him in the run game. You're trying to make him a factor. And, that's kind of a tell for a lot of teams. For Georgia, they might have 2 tight ends out there and feel just as good throwing the football downfield. Now, you don't have Brock Bowers. You don't have Darnell Washington. That was kind of the Super Saiyan version of this offense. But you still have a Lawson Lucky. You still have the transfer from Stanford. You still have Oscar Delp. Like, there's still some dudes now. Jaden Riddell. They have a lot of dudes now that they can still make that sauce work if they want to. But why Georgia, to me, is a little bit more frightening this upcoming season, look at what they have in that wide receiver room. Dom Lovett, Dylan Bell, Arian Smith, London Humphreys. We just keep going on. Ra Thomas. We just keep going down the list here. Colby Young. They've got a lot of talent in that wide receiver room, a lot of mouths to feed. But Georgia, if they want to, they can become a pass-first kind of operation this year. We've seen them do it in the past with Stetson Bennett. Carson Beck is more than good enough to make that happen. Georgia can hurt you running the football, but also based on the personnel, and I said this would be more scheme-heavy than personnel-heavy, but the way that you have to prepare for both now, or both maybe is the wrong word, you have to stress a little bit more now on what the Georgia wide receiver room can do. I think that's going to be just ridiculous to defend, if I'm being honest with y'all. And you got a quarterback to make it all go. So watch out for Georgia. They're very, very multiple. That's going to give defenses fits. Now, Ole Miss, you can't do a segment like this and not talk about Coach Kiffin and Coach Weiss and what they do offensively. They do a really good job playing with the eyes and instincts of a defense. Remember we talked about Texas and the RPO stuff they want to do. That's where Ole Miss lives, man. Like, more often than not, Ole Miss is going to have an RPO tag on any of their run games. What does that mean? Jackson Dart, a lot of the time, is going to be able to throw a pass even when a run play is called. He sees something he likes. He sees soft coverage with Trey Harris, taking candy from a baby. And that's not super uncommon to have that in the college offense, but I think the volume that Ole Miss is willing to do that at, that's what makes it really difficult to defend. They scored 32 points a game last year. I expect them to be even higher in that margin this upcoming season. Dart has a lot of opportunity to, I think, expand this offense on what they were a season ago because of his progress in the system, because of his progress being able to take another step in the RPO game. Because coming to Ole Miss, he had never done it before. Like, his first year at Ole Miss was his first time running the RPO system. That's becoming more and more rare. Because at the high school level, a lot of schools run RPO. A lot of colleges, even if you transfer from somewhere, you probably have the RPO stuff baked in there. So there's that part of it. But going back to the instincts part of it, when they run the football effectively, that's when the RPO really starts to open up. That's when it's, hey, that linebacker creeps down, that safety creeps down, pull the ball out of the belly, we're getting the ball out to Juice Wells, we're getting the ball out to Jordan Watkins, and we're striking up the band. That's how Ole Miss operates, and that's how they're going to operate again this upcoming season. Now, speaking to the eyes they mess with, a lot of pre-snap motion from Ole Miss, and they use it to their advantage because they'll run some jet sweep, they'll run some bubbles, similar to Oregon. They'll get the ball in the perimeter. They'll make you bite on a certain play that you think you have a gauge for, and wouldn't you know it, counter back the other way. So they play with the instincts, they play with your eyes, they play with your tendencies, and they do it, I think, as well as anybody else in America. So those are kind of the main ones I want to talk about here. However, there's a couple of other offenses that need to be mentioned in this discussion. Like, Lincoln Riley is arguably the best offensive mind in college football, arguably now. I'm just curious to see what they are with Miller Moss. That's why I'm not listing them ahead of any of these guys right now. Alabama, Ohio State, like, I'll put it this way. I trust the directors of these movies. All right, Nick Brake, our resident movie buff. If you know that Martin Scorsese, however you say his last name, if you know he's directing a movie, I don't need to know the plot. I don't need to know the actors. I just know it's going to be good. Kind of the same deal with Kalen DeBoer. Kind of the same deal with Chip Kelly. The same deal with Lincoln Riley. I think for Alabama, we're going to see how they put it together. My gut, though, is it'll still be Alabama, punch in the mouth, pound the rock kind of operation. But at the same time, pre-snap, they're going to do a lot to help Jalen Milroe. They're going to spread you out a little bit defensively. And they're going to also do some things to make the defense misalign with whether it's motions or shifts like Texas. They're going to give Jalen Milroe, I believe, a lot of what I would call easy throws. Like, he's not having to sit back there, put it over the linebacker in front of the safety. It's like 3 steps, know where the ball is going, it's out, cool, 7-yard gain, let's keep it moving. I think that'll be Bama. And then also baked into that Alabama smash mouth, like, you have one of the best athletes in college football at quarterback for you in Jalen Milroe. You're going to let him cook. One of the reasons why I love Bama's offense this year. And then for Ohio State, same deal. We kind of have context clues as to how we think it'll work. I think it's going to be run to pass. Like, I think you got Quinshon Judkins for a reason from the portal. What I think will be really nasty is when Ohio State goes into those 2 running back sets, and you're back there in the gun if you're Will Howard, and to the right, you got Quinshon Judkins, and to your left, you got Travion Henderson, and it's just like, all right, 1, either of these guys could get the football. 2, we could do a little bit of some option game with Will Howard and his legs. We've seen Chip Kelly do that at different times in his career. I think it's going to be nasty. It's going to be nasty. And, oh, by the way, if you want to overcommit to the run game, we have some of the best receivers in America to make you pay on that end of things too. So, toughest offenses to defend. Probably not an all-encompassing list, but those are the ones that come to mind. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. Watch those offenses. They all do things different ways. But at the exact same time, they put on clinics every single Saturday. And even the new OCs, even the new head coaches that are taking over some spots with some new personnel, still think they'll be nasty. Kind of par for the course there. All right, let's keep a good thing going, man. Hey, if you're tuned in live, go ahead and like the video. Go ahead and like the video. We appreciate you so much for that. A little bit of caffeine to keep the juice going. We're almost to that point of the year now, too. Those of y'all that know me, my typical caffeine source, we appreciate the drinks. We do. if there were a sponsor for the show that was a caffeine drink, that would change the game for us. However, I just like it straight, man. I like the caffeine pills, all right? I'm cool with the flavor. I'm cool with the liquid kind. I'm cool with coffee now and then. But, like, for us, it's like, just give it to us straight. Give us the main thing. We'll go caffeine pills as we get into the season now. We're about at that point where we're going to go back to the caffeine pills and be dialed in for the college football season, all right? So by the time we have prediction week next week, it will be caffeine pill season, all right? I promise you that. Now, we know prediction week is about to be here because media days are here, all right? Big Ten media days going on right now in Indianapolis. And Matt Rhule said something the other day that rubbed some people the wrong way. And at face value, I get it. But as you take a closer look at it, you're like, this isn't that crazy to say. Matt Rhule says offhand in answering a question about the Big Ten, he's like, I think we should have 4 Big Ten teams in the college football playoff every year. He said, this is the NFL of college football. And this got the reaction you would expect it to get on Twitter. 4 Big Ten? Are you 4 Big Ten teams? Well, you must have 6 SEC teams. What are they? 4 Big Ten teams every year? How do you figure that works, Coach Rhule? Okay, let's take a step back here. From the NFL aspect, like saying that this is the NFL of college football, from a draft perspective, the pushback there is totally fair. From a style of play perspective, though, look at how many fullbacks they got out there in the Big Ten. Kind of resembles the NFL in that regard. Like, shout out to fullbacks. They still exist in the Big Ten. Like, Big 44, Max Breechton from Michigan was absolutely trucking dudes in the college football playoff last year. He was leading the way. I mean, God bless anyone that got in his way, man. Like, from a style of play, from a run the ball, under center, pro-style offense, I think that probably hits a little bit more to what he was saying. Obviously, the SEC right now has much more talent than any other conference in college football, and the NFL feels the same way based on NFL draft picks. And that wasn't really what got as much pushback. The pushback was 4 teams, Coach Rhule, every year? Are we serious? Are we serious? And here's what I will secede. Every year, like an auto bid, that's pushing it, right? Like, that's a little bit of a stretch in my mind. Every single year to guarantee 4 spots for the Big Ten. I'm not saying it'll never happen. I'm just saying right now, I have a hard time getting on board with that. Even this year, like you look at Oregon, you look at Ohio State, maybe Penn State, if they take care of business. We'll see what USC is. We'll see what Michigan is, even though they have a lot of returning production they're not bringing back. They still have some really talented pieces to make a run. Like, we'll see what they are this year. I would have a harder time getting behind 4 teams from the Big Ten this upcoming season. But, like, let's look to the future here. Like, let's zoom out a little bit. There's too many good coaches with too many big brands, with too many fan bases that have a large care factor, which matters now in NIL and which matters in recruiting, for these schools to stay down. And stay down is the wrong word to use, but to not end up being forces and be consistent college football playoff teams in the future. Like Penn State, they would have made 6 college football playoffs had we been in a 12-team model instead of the 4-team model. They've been in that dance, or been in the conversation for that dance, really for the better part of it, feels like every single year. I mean, Michigan just won a national championship last year. A lot of people look at their schedule, look at what they don't have coming back, and it's like, Michigan can make the college football playoff this year. But if you don't think they'll make it this year, look to the future. They're going to be in that discussion every single year going forward, in my opinion, based on what I believe about Sharon Moore. Look at USC. You think they're going to stay down? Like, if you had to bet money, USC will never make the college football playoff going forward, would you really feel good about making that bet? I don't think so. Lincoln Riley, his track record is far too strong. Say what you want about his defense. Dude develops the most important position in football and wins a lot of games. Say what you want about his defense. He wins a lot of games. Wisconsin, I've been off on Wisconsin before, but like, Luke Fickell has made the college football playoff with a G5 team. You don't think at some point he's going to take Wisconsin there in a 12-team model? I think he's going to do it. This year, I don't know, but I think he's going to do it at some point. So, like, you keep going down the list here, all these Big Ten teams that have too much, I believe, behind them to stay down is the wrong word, but to not make the dance or not be contenders for the dance every single year. We will live in a 12-team playoff era where we see, I believe, 4 Big Ten teams make it. Every year, that's a little bit rich. But 4 teams, I do not think that's a stretch. Like, think about what you would take from the Big Ten over other conferences. I'd take a 10-2 Big Ten team over a 10-2 ACC team based on the strength of conference solely. Honestly, I think I'd feel probably pretty good about taking a 10-2 Big Ten team over a 10-2 Notre Dame right now. And that's not to knock Notre Dame. It's just what I know about the conference, what I know they're having to do every single week, the grind of that schedule now, adding in these 4 teams. I didn't even mention Michigan State with Jonathan Smith. I think he'll end up having success there. Washington, we just saw them play for the college football national championship a season ago. I get Kalen DeBoer left, but like we've seen them be successful as well. So like as the landscape shifts, I understand that there's a lot of kickback on, well, 4 teams, who do they think they are? I haven't even said anything about Nebraska. I think Matt Rhule's going to win at a high level based on the history that he's had. I'm just saying. This year, 4 Big Ten teams, probably a little bit rich. Every year, I have a harder time getting behind that. But every other year, every couple of years, I would not be surprised if we saw 4 Big Ten teams in the college football playoff for all the reasons I just mentioned. So Twitter ran with it. Twitter does what Twitter does. But that's not nearly as crazy as it sounds, in my humble opinion. Now, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go next, but let's go with Tennessee here. Let's go with Tennessee. I wanted to get the Deshaun Foster stuff here in a minute, but let's start with Tennessee. Tennessee, I think, is going to have a real chance to make the college football playoff. I'll leave that there. I sat down to do our college football playoff rough draft yesterday in the little back room that I'll sometimes work out of. I don't know what happened. I blacked out. I don't know what I put down. We'll have to revisit it, but it was tough trying to figure out who's going to be in that dance. But Tennessee, look at the schedule, look at who they have on that roster, look who's at quarterback. Just saying, they're going to have a chance now. But how's this offense going to look with the Nico Iamaleava era getting rolling? Nico time in Knoxville, baby. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of excitement around him for good reason, because of the physical traits, because of how highly he was rated out of high school. For us, again, the number 1 player in America out of high school in the class of 2023. Not number 1 quarterback, though he was that as well. Number 1 player. All right? That should mean something. So how is this offense going to look when you put a talent like Nico back at quarterback? We'll break it down right now. But hey, if you're a Tennessee fan, we've had a lot of y'all join the party here and be subscribed to this channel. So thank you for that. But if you're new, forget if you're a Tennessee fan or not. If you're just a college football sicko and you live and die by fall Saturdays, welcome home, baby. It's college football, nothing but college football all year round on this channel. So subscribe here so you don't miss a lick of what we're talking about on this show. Also, make sure to dial in over on the podcast platforms. Okay, Apple, Spotify, no judgment. Wherever you get your pods, we appreciate you getting your pods there. And you type in the hard count with JD Pickell, it'll pop up for you. So subscribe to that feed. Leave us a review. Just helps us help you. So we appreciate that. How this offense is going to look, the main things will be the main thing. We alluded to it earlier, or we talked about it earlier in our segment talking about the toughest offenses to defend in all of college football. Tennessee will still be Tennessee with how they run this show. Spread you out, try and push the ball vertical, and we'll talk about that. But, like, make no mistake, Tennessee is a run-the-football operation. They are. You think about Tennessee, and you think Hendon Hooker, and you think Jalen Hyatt, and you think about big pass plays, but, like, those pass plays happen because of what they do running the ball. Last year was no exception. Last year, they were a little bit more of a gritty football team in my mind than what they were in 2022 based on how they called the offense. 54% of the time, they ran the ball. Had success doing it too. 5 yards a clip. Good for number 10 in the country. And so the reason why that's so effective is a couple of reasons. One, Josh Heupel's a really freaking good coach. Two, they have good offensive linemen with good backs. But on top of that, we talk about how often they spread you out, and we talk about that in the sense of what it does for the pass game. That does a lot for the run game too. And I'm going to use a term here that a lot of coaches will use to talk about a safety or a linebacker. It's the overhang defender. If you can visualize this, it's typically the player that is probably trying to be a little bit outside the tight end, a few yards off the ball. So they're not a linebacker exactly, not a safety exactly. They're somewhere in the middle, though it could be one of those body types. What Tennessee does when they spread you out is they put the overhang defender in a bind. because the overhang defender can't play the run and play the pass at the same time with how far they put out those splits. Like Squirrel White is all the way out there past the hash mark. I can't cover him in my zone or man coverage and also add in and make a tackle on inside zone. I can't do both. And so what that does is when you force that overhang defender to commit, it leaves grass either in front of him because he's playing the pass or behind him because he's playing the run. And so early on in the game, you'll see overhang defenders try and kind of play both and maybe be a little bit unsure of themselves. And when that happens, you know this, man. Like when you try and do two things well, you usually end up doing zero things well, and you end up getting gashed. Kind of how Tennessee operates offensively. So they do that, and then also they go with tempo. Now, tempo is the one thing I want to talk about here with a little bit more specificity. How about that? I think that's probably a big-time word in Scrabble. Specificity. Everyone's wondering, well, what about the O-line this year? What about the depth this year? Fair to have that concern. Tennessee is not going to ask their offensive line to hold blocks for 6 seconds. They're not going to ask their offensive line to make a pancake every single play. What they're going to ask their offensive line to do is execute at a high level with providing creases for their running backs. Okay, notice I said crease. I did not say pancake. I did not say dominate the opposition and put his face in the dirt. You'll take all that, and you'll see some of that from this group. I'm telling you, they got some nasty dudes, all right? Cooper Mays, Lance Hurd, they got some guys. But even with that being said, you just give them some daylight, we're getting north and south. Okay, that's what it's built on doing. They're not asking them to be just total dominators, total maulers up front. Though you'll take that. So when you give them a crease, that's all you need. That's a lot easier to do. Again, asking a lot less physically of your offensive line. But speaking to tempo, the way that Tennessee's going to be conditioned, I'll tell you right now, man, you get a few plays into a drive and you're running a play every 20, 25 seconds, that push from the defensive line, a lot less on that fourth play than it was in the first play. Like, it's a lot easier to get a push up front. It's a lot easier to get that combo block on the inside zone going north and south. All right, so that's, I think, something that plays to their advantage. Doesn't have to be, the NFL style of offensive line. It just has to be enough to give us a crease, get a good push up front, be conditioned, and we're in good shape. Now, I think you'll see a fair amount of Nico Iamaleava just kind of sprinkled into the quarterback design run game. The reason why I love this for Tennessee is, remember that overhang defender I mentioned? When he's playing the pass, it creates what, football people will talk about a lot with like a light box. You hear that a lot watching Tennessee games. They got a light box. What does that mean? It means that there is less defenders committed to defending the run. Essentially what it means. There's less guys in that square, if you put a square around the defensive line and linebackers, than there would be if they're trying to defend the run because they're so worried about having it bombed over their head. Now, when you have a designed quarterback run, guess what? You get an extra blocker, all right? Nico Iamaleava is playing quarterback for you, so your running back gets to add in and block a linebacker, block a safety, block whoever, just block somebody, so we have one less guy that can tackle Nico. That's good for business. You saw it in the bowl game against Iowa. That is going to equip them to be really, really effective in the run game. Adds another element you have to defend. And I'm not even speaking to what he does when the play breaks down and how he ad-libs. I love that too, but in the design quarterback run game, that's going to make him a threat in a very, very real way. So we'll get to the pass game here right now. Like, everyone talks about how they throw the ball deep and the big plays, and that's true, but understand now, they build to those kind of plays. And that's why Nico excites me with this offense. Those deep passes happen because the intermediate passes happen first. And Joe Milton, again, I think he kind of gets a bad rap for what happened last year in Knoxville. But I think Nico is going to be more consistent than he was in that 10 to 15-yard range throwing the football. Like those deep digs, those curls, all those. I think Nico will hit at a higher rate. And when that happens, those safeties, they're like, whoa, what's going on here? I got to go make sure I make a tackle on that curl because I'm the last line of defense here. I can't have a catch and run scenario. And when that happens, safety's thinking a little bit. He's watching the curl. I'm watching the slot receiver in front of me score right one of that, let's call it a 12-yard dig. Right behind me, though, Dante Thornton's streaking down the sideline. I'm flat-footed. He's open deep. Strike up the band. I'm not telling you it'll be that way every single time, but I think that's kind of the formula they want to roll with. Go tempo, run the football, put you in a bind with your safeties and your linebackers. You don't know what to cover, And once we start hitting those intermediate passes, a lot of green grass behind you. So that's very much so an overarching view as to how this is going to look. The big thing I want us to take away from this segment here, Nico's athleticism can be an extra element to knife through light boxes. Nico's ability to connect on the intermediate game is going to make for more deep splash plays. And then the quality of receiver he has and the quantity of receiver he has, I think, is improved from a season ago. Watch out for Chris Brazzell, healthy Brew McCoy, Squirrel White getting some help, Mike Matthews. Like they got a lot of dudes now that can make plays if they can stay healthy. This offense, I think, will look a lot more similar to what it did in 2022. And that's good vibes for the folks out there on Rocket Top. And, I mean, honestly, I'll be real. Like, this show, we try and be good vibes, man. Like, how could you not be good vibes talking about the greatest sport on the face of the planet Earth? All right? We don't have a lot to be too upset about. Now, I do think we need to discuss this because it made some waves. It was a little bit of a talking point yesterday on the social media side of things. Big Ten Media Days was rolling, and USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, all new to the conference, all at Big Ten Media Days. Deshaun Foster did not think he was going to be a head coach this time last year, I have to believe. It's my assumption. I can't say that without a shadow of a doubt. I think that's probably what he would believe. Now, he is the head coach at UCLA. Chip Kelly goes and takes the OC job at Ohio State. Deshaun Foster, here's the keys to the program. Let's rock. Now, when you're the head coach at Media Days, you take the podium in front of a lot of people. And more often than not, you will deliver a short filibuster, as Andy Staples would say, or a short address to the media. Here's who we are. We're excited about this. Happy to be here. Let's take some questions. Deshaun Foster's opening statement probably would like a redo on that if you're Coach Foster, but nonetheless, I'll let you take a look at it and we'll talk about it afterwards. So here's Deshaun Foster.
I'm happy to be here. Glad to be a part of this great conference. Finally putting two great emblems together, UCLA and the Big Ten. We're a school that's won, 123 championships, so this fits us being right in this conference. Football-wise, we're just excited. You know, I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA. It's us and USC. We I'm just basically excited, really. That's it. Any questions?
Was like, all right, I feel for Coach Foster. I do, man. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But right after I had that thought of feeling bad, I was like, man, but you knew this was coming. Like, this wasn't a pop quiz. This wasn't some kind of ambush of saying, hey, surprise, you got to go address the media. It was like, Coach, we knew we had to talk to the media. We knew we had to give an opening statement, an opening address. And then I went from that to being like, just say something. Say something. Like, it goes from when someone's presenting in class where, like, you feel bad for them, but then you're like, just say something. Just fake it. Make it up. Go to the schedule. Talk through the schedule for me. Talk about what the first few months have been like being the head coach at UCLA. Talk about how much you love UCLA. Talk about the history of UCLA. Heck, talk about how much you hate USC. I just say something. That was how I started feeling towards the end of that. So we got a second to breathe. Obviously, there's the Twitter reaction. Everyone's down on UCLA and, oh, what's this guy like? You know, you get Twitter doing what Twitter does. That's a lot harder than it looks, man. I will say that. That is a lot harder than it looks. And so all the people on Twitter clowning Deshaun Foster and clowning UCLA, like, you got to walk up there. The microphone itself allows you to hear yourself, which adds another level of awareness, which is already heightened because you're nervous to speak in front of a bunch of people. This is also very different than addressing the team in the team room, okay? Because, like, coaches, they speak in front of, like, 100 dudes probably every other day, which is their team, when they walk up in front of them and tell them what the message is for the day or what the workout's going to be or what they're whatever, practice schedule. He's not uncomfortable speaking publicly to his team or speaking publicly, period. But you walk up there and you see however many 100 media members, Probably none of them really smiling too much at you. See all the TV cameras. Again, you hear yourself as like, whoa, this is a different beast. And I'll say this too from experience. Like, we are super fortunate to be able to speak into this microphone and speak into that camera and call it a job. Just hilarious. What we do here is very different than what Deshaun Foster was asked to do at media days. All right, like right now, me and Nick break in this room and this camera, and that's it. Like, I don't have however many 100 people sitting in this room with us and just chopping it up. We did the NIL Elite Series here in Nashville, which is an absolute blast. The On-3 Elite Series, I should say. And, I mean, it's phenomenal. During that event, yours truly walked up there and did a panel in front of, I want to say, it was probably close to like 300 people, give or take. And so I wasn't even giving an opening address. I was literally asking questions to Will Compton to then go ahead and knock it out of the park and deliver just wisdom to the people in that room. With that being said, as someone who speaks into a camera every day, I was nervous, dude. I was nervous to walk up there and have to speak in front of that many people. So this is very difficult, what Deshaun Foster had to do. So maybe ease up a little bit on that side of things. Here's the good news if you're a UCLA fan. That press conference, that opening address, has zero to do with what they will be in 2024. Nothing. Like, I don't care how you talk to the media. I care how you communicate to your players. And you go back and watch the response from the UCLA team room when Deshaun Foster was announced as their next head coach. They mobbed him, dude. They love Deshaun Foster. They respond to him. They respond to his communication. So say what you want about the press conference. Again, it felt uncomfortable. I was rooting for him to just say something, get anything out there. We knew this was coming, but at the same time, that's really tough to do. I'm sure he'll be fine in the future. Coach, let's watch the tape. Let's run it back. Let's get better. I'm sure he will. First time for everything. He'll be more than fine. One more thing. Nick Sirianni, remember him? Currently the head coach of the Eagles. Go back and watch his opening press conference. It was tough. It was very, very tough. And I think he had a lot less eyeballs on him than Deshaun Foster did at Big Ten Media Days in terms of people in that room. And Nick Sirianni was a Pat Mahomes away from winning a Super Bowl with the Eagles. So it is what it is. You don't love it the way it circulates on Twitter. Give it 48 hours. People will be talking about something else. And, again, we root for Deshaun Foster on this show, baby. Big bounce back. Minor setback, major comeback, Coach Foster. Let's roll. All right, one more segment here. If you're in the live chat, like the video, get us your question. A great 1-2 punch. Even better, if you're not already, subscribe to the channel, get in the live chat. Okay, so question, subscribe. It's a good rhythm for us, so thank you for that. One more thing that came out yesterday in the college football world, Pat McAfee. Y'all, Pat McAfee's back on College Game Day. And this was something that caused a little bit of a stir over the course of the last few weeks or few months, I guess, when it was like, hey, he hasn't signed a new contract. Is he going to be back on game day? And those of y'all that watch this show or those of y'all that know me, like, to me, College Game Day is as important as the game's about to be played. Like, I love sitting down, having that theme play, even if it is the new theme, and like, okay, college football is here. College football Saturday is here. Let's get rocking, getting fired up for the day. And Pat McAfee being back on College Game Day, I believe, is a win for college football. Now, there was a article/poll that came out on The Athletic that said some large percentage of people don't enjoy game day anymore or won't watch game day or something. They have a negative view on game day now because Pat McAfee is on game day. And to me, I'm like, why? Why? I think he's a great fit for game day. Dude brings energy. Dude brings passion. Clearly is excited to be there. Well, JD, he's too loud. He's too loud. There's not enough analysis. Takes his shirt off. Like, just kind of a weird fit. The show's 3 hours, and they're on location in front of however many 100 college students. Like, I'm cool with you being loud during a 3-hour show. Not enough analysis. I need more analysis from him. You got Kirk Herbstreit on the desk, the best analyst to ever exist. You got Nick Saban now joining the desk to add some more insight. You got Desmond Howard. Like, there is enough analysis on that desk to be more than fine going forward here. If Pat McAfee wants to invite people to try and kick a 33-yard field goal and shank it and cause a scene, like, I'm cool with that. I love that for my Saturday morning. All right, I love that for my Saturday morning. The other thing people say, though, which I think is interesting, is like, well, he's not a college football guy. And that's, I think, a very, very fair point to make. He's not a college football guy. If you've watched Pat McAfee's show, they pretty much major in the NFL. Like, that's where Pat McAfee, I would say, had his most notoriety, what he did with the Indianapolis Colts. Let's not act like he didn't play college football, though. He played at West Virginia, a school that lives and breathes and exists with their Mountaineers. Okay, like that is a school now where Pat McAfee, I promise you, was able to be fully embedded into what the college football culture is. Like, he's not just parachuting in on this thing with no experience as to what we're all about as college football sickos, okay? The thing I would say, though, is, like, dude's schedule is crazy. And this is not me carrying water for Pat McAfee, just something that we probably should all keep in mind here. Yes, he's probably getting paid buku bucks. I'm sure that's the case. But, like, dude goes 5 days a week, 15 hours of live content, and then chooses, with a baby girl and a wife, to then go to College Game Day and do another 3 hours live under immense scrutiny, and having everybody and their mama watching him and picking him apart. And he's like, yeah, I'm still down for it. Like, that would be his day off, because Sunday is their big day too, where they follow a lot of content, but, like, he is sacrificing a day off to go do College Game Day. So to say he doesn't care, he's not invested, that to me is a little bit of a stretch. I think he's been great for the sport. I think he's great for the game, and he engages a younger audience, which I think is phenomenal. I think the way that he has boosted Game Day in a lot of ways is phenomenal, and I think it's a win for college football. So that's my take on it. If you think McAfee is too annoying, it's your prerogative, but I think I'm fine with you being a little bit loud if we got 3 hours to do of live television and we got a lot of games to talk through. I'm cool with some antics. I'm cool with some noise. Just my take on it. All right, so getting to the live chat here. Before that, though, got a quick ad read for y'all. The hard count is brought to you by our friends at Game Time, baby. In Game Time, they've been with us for a while now. If you're going to live sporting events right now, more than likely you're going to baseball games. We've got a lot of baseball fans that watch the show, got a lot of baseball fans behind the show. Trey Hannity lives and dies with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Think about that for a second. When you go to bed at night and you say your prayers, say a prayer or two for Trey Hannity and the Pittsburgh Pirates, because I think they could probably use it. If you want to go to a Pittsburgh Pirates game, Game Time, they got you covered. Me personally, I grew up going to Turner Field and seeing the Braves play. I understand it's not where they're playing anymore, but that was my childhood. So if you want to go to a Major League Baseball game, the bottom line here is Game Time has got you covered with the best tickets and the lowest prices guaranteed. A couple of things I love about Game Time. First is I just appreciate I know I'm getting the best price. Like, if you find a ticket to the same event in a row and section that your ticket is in for a lower price, Game Time says, you know what, that's not right. We tell you we got the lowest price. We're going to make sure you get the lowest price. 110% back from Game Time. How about that? That's the Game Time guarantee. Also, just for peace of mind out there, like, you know, when you sit down at your seat, you already know the view if you purchase through Game Time, because Game Time, they have a feature to where you can see every single view from every single seat in the stadium or in the theater, in the arena, whatever you're going to. You have a vantage point to see what you're looking at before you get there. So you're not showing up and saying, oh, man, I'm behind the Jumbotron. Oh, man, I'm behind X, Y, and Z object that would obstruct your view from the thing that you just paid good money to go to. All right, so that's another thing. Have some peace of mind when buying tickets with Game Time. All right, so here's what I want us to all be aligned on. If you are going to a Major League Baseball game, take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code HARDCOUNT for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code HARDCOUNT, HARDCOUNT, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. Let's get to the live chat now. We hear from y'all. And as we do every single live chat that we go to, we are led by the man, the myth, legend, Nick Brake.
What's up?
How we doing, baby?
Pretty good. Hey, we got a super chat.
That's good news.
Dakota.
There we
Thank
go.
you very much. It says, what's up, JD? When will you and Boogie collab again?
Boogie Bentley, man. Big fan of Boogie Bentley. We'll have to get that done for you.
Yeah.
For those of y'all that don't know, Talkin' Vols is a show that we've been on before. They do great work out there, and we'll have to find a way to get that done here before we get rolling. But, yeah, appreciate Boogie. Good people, man. Good people.
And also, appreciate Dakota, the GOAT.
Love it. Appreciate it, Dakota.
Key to success. Why isn't Texas A&M the sleeper team conversation for the new SEC? They've got a new coach who's successful. The talent is high, and the funding is obviously quite big. JD,
I like it. I like it. No, I can get behind that. I'm there for that. I think A&M is a sleeper. I think the SEC is so deep this year. I was sitting in the office back there, like I was looking at how many teams could go 10-2, and I got to like 6, and I was like, okay, we're not going to have 6 10-2 teams. Let's dial it back a little bit, JD. A&M is definitely a sleeper. They should be in that sleeper conversation. And if you're an A&M fan, I think you're maybe a little bit pleased that you're not being talked about quite as much this upcoming season. Because all you've heard about for the better part of the last couple of years is, hey, this is the year for A&M to make the playoff. Hey, this is the year now for A&M to make a splash and finally have all the talent translate to the field. The reason why I am holding my A&M stock is because I believe that Mike Elko will get it right there. When that happens, I'm not 100% sure. This season, I think we've seen enough first-year coaches to where it might take a year. It might take a year to totally get everything that Mike Elko's about into the Texas A&M football team. Like, Texas A&M might not be a Mike Elko kind of football team until 2025. Not saying that's the case. We've obviously seen head coaches their first year just have a ton of success, like Brian Kelly, like Lincoln Riley. That could definitely happen. In the SEC, I'd probably lean a little bit more towards Mike Elko having a solid year, not a bad year, not a great year, but a solid year, something to build off of and something to move forward with there. If he's able to get that talent in position to where they'd like to be able to be, if that makes sense. So the bones are good. I like the structure. I like the toughness. Just give it a year. Give it a second to bake over microwave.
Yeah. Kevin says, if you could create a new college football program from scratch, where would you locate your school? Kevin says Florida. I mean, if you're thinking recruiting, yeah, but wouldn't it be kind of fun to be like the only school in like Montana or something?
Ooh, I could see it. I mean, hey, you're recruiting with a great natural beauty behind you. So I get behind that. I probably would lean towards a more talent-rich state. I'd probably go Texas. I mean, Florida, man, I would go for Florida, but I'm just like, man, it's getting more crowded now with UCF being a power conference school. I'd probably look at California and be like, man, can we just lock down this state? Can we lock down this state, keep all these big-time recruits here, and go win some ball games? Of course, I'm a little bit biased, having been in California for a large part of my life. Texas also would be intriguing. I'd probably lean California, though, just because of how much they haven't knocked it out of the park there on the recruiting trail, just yet at least. That's my opinion.
Hear me out. Puerto Rico U.
Puerto Rico U. I don't know what the high school talent is like in Puerto Rico. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't know. I don't know.
That's cool. We'd be the talk of the town.
Yeah, hey, the travel for your team.
Yeah.
Be brutal.
That's true.
Good funding though. Georgia Tech, college football fan first. I see Keith's success in there. I thought he was making a comment on Georgia Tech. That's another school that I think is interesting. Like when the whole Deion Sanders stuff was starting to bubble over and he wasn't going to be at Jackson State, it looked like he was looking at other jobs. I thought Georgia Tech made a lot of success, or made a lot of sense for him to be successful there. In Atlanta, a city that he is, I mean, let's call a spade here, a city that he is synonymous with in a lot of ways, with playing for the Falcons and the Braves. Like, I thought he could have torn it up in Atlanta. I'm waiting for someone to go to Atlanta and just recruit that whole region. You know what? I'll change my answer. We're going to Atlanta, Nick. We're gonna take over Georgia Tech, or we'll start a new school in Atlanta, and that's gonna be the way that we go about our business, and we'll run roughshod over the college football world.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. I mean, it's a great school, and I know that has always kind of been a fault for football programs. It's like the academic standard, but like Atlanta, that should be a program.
You could do it.
Program.
You could do it, man.
Yep.
You could do it. Notre Dame's doing it right now, and I think Notre Dame and Georgia
Michigan
Tech, I'd imagine, they're in the same. I mean, remember how good Stanford was when Harbaugh was there? They were like consistently a BCS Bowl kind of team.
Yep. Well, and Michigan may just be the best public school, like country or college in America. Won a national championship, so maybe that's in the past.
Hey, don't tell me that we can't get to the moon when there's footprints on it already. I don't think that's the expression, but you hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true.
I see the American flag planted on there. Don't tell me we can't get there. All right.
Yeah. The truth, in your opinion, what is the best like dream fantasy or like football matchup? For example, 2000 Miami Hurricanes versus 2015 Alabama. Chris Kemp says 2001 Canes versus 2020 Tide.
Man, that's tough. I'm gonna throw one at you here. Give me 2019 LSU and 2005, 2006 national title Texas for no other reason than I'd love to see the duel between Joe Burrow and Vince Young. Because that LSU team, I wasn't necessarily conscious when the Miami team was running roughshod. I wasn't conscious when Nebraska was running roughshod. But I remember that 2019 LSU team now. I was very conscious for that one, as were a lot of college football fans that are around my age. Seeing them, which is like the most recent, most dominant college football team, in my recollection at least, and the original most dominant college football team that I remember, which is Texas, like those two going at it, I'd love to see that game. I think LSU probably wins, but I would love to see what Vince Young would have to say about that.
Fun fact from Ferris Khan, there is a Michigan Block M on the moon.
No kidding.
It's pretty cool.
I wonder if that's true. Can we
presume
verify
it
that
is.
from Ferris?
I think it is.
Interesting. All right,
I'm
that'll be a Google search post show.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a Michigan Block M on the moon? Well, all right. Well, we'll find out.
Yeah,
that's cool though. If that is, that's cool. Good for them.
Yeah, I think so too.
For the
JD,
Wolverines.
I've got one question and then one fun question. Is that cool?
I love it, dude.
OG Gary, which teams do you think can consistently make the semifinals of the college football playoffs? That's weird to say.
Man, so I guess he's speaking to who's going to be in the top four when it used to be like who's going to be those four teams in the playoff. Now we're like who can make it to the final four teams, which is as Andy Staples would say, man, it's a wild retraining of your brain we're having to do right now. I mean, I think Georgia. I mean, just not to be, too overly over the top on how we feel about the Dogs. I think Georgia, as long as Kirby Smart is there, they will be a factor. I think Ohio State in this new playoff format, who's to say they're not fighting their way to that top four? Now we'll see what happens with Ryan Day. I understand there's a lot of folks holding their breath on that situation. I think it's ridiculous if you're going to part ways with him, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. Just the best rosters feel like they're consistently going to be in that top four. Because at the end of the day, man, like if I have better players than you, I have a substantially better chance to win the football game. That's not novel analysis. That's just kind of the name of the game. I think Georgia is always going to have the top 5% of rosters in college football. I think Oregon is going to end up being in that world eventually. I think Ohio State's in that world eventually. So those teams I would probably pencil in right now, but like there's a lot I didn't mention there too. Bama with Kalen DeBoer, think they're going to be a wagon. LSU, I think, is going to win a national championship under Brian Kelly, so we'll see what happens there. A lot of teams, Michigan, like there's a lot of teams now that I think are going to contend, which is going to be a lot of fun, but I probably would, if I had to pick one that I had to bet on every single year to be in the Final Four, if I had to, cast a futures bet, probably Georgia.
Okay. JD, last question's from Goat Dog. What would you add to your favorite fast food restaurant or maybe even bring back that used to be on the menu?
Ooh. How about Goat Dog, man? Goat Dog.
It's the best name.
Part goat, part dog.
Mm-hmm.
You just never know. You never know which animal you're talking to. I'm going to say we're talking to the goat.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to like the items Chick-fil-A's had on their menu. There was a minute where I think Chick-fil-A, it was at select stores, they had spicy grilled chicken sandwich. And brother, it was a hit. It was so good. I would bring that back. Also, they always have like a seasonal milkshake, but their fall seasonal milkshake is just, whenever they have it, and it's hit or miss now based on location. Whenever they have that is a hit and a half. I see some Whataburger love in the chat. Yeah, that's my go-to. Probably would be bring the grilled chicken, spicy chicken back for the old Chick-fil-A out there. You got one, Nick? You got one of these?
Well, my favorite fast food restaurant is Shake Shack.
Okay.
I'd go like onion rings or curly fries on the menu.
Oh, okay. They don't have either of those?
They have just crinkle cut fries, which are really good.
Solid.
But Yeah, I love those two things. Maybe some like boneless wings. I don't know.
Some boneless wings from Shake Shack. I
Yeah,
can
just
see it.
Have a burger and then like 5 boneless wings.
Conference realignment,
Mm-hmm.
but fast food. I think Andy Staples actually did a segment on that, which is phenomenal.
He did.
That's phenomenal. I love that.
He sure did.
Heck
Yep.
yeah. Nick, anything else you want to get out there before we send our wonderful audience off into the weekend that is?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Check out our schedule predictions. Go to our channel,
Yep.
hit shorts, and every day there is a schedule prediction. We've done 3 so far. We'll do our 4th today.
Yep.
Okay.
It's rolling.
Also,
Here
I have
we
a
go,
ping
man.
pong ball in my hand.
You're balling.
It made the air.
You're
it was
balling.
just over here.
You're balling.
But anyway, yeah, that's what I'd say.
I love it. That's a great way to send them off, man. Yeah, I mean, the shorts here, the On3 TikTok channel, Instagram for On3 CFB, and yours truly. We collab on all those. So, yeah, lock in there. Prediction season. We got prediction week for you now on the horizon. So, lock in for it. Nick, heck of a week, brother. We'll finish strong here on our end, but as people are asking about kickball. Kickball is not over.
It's not over.
It's not
It just
over.
didn't go well last
You had a
night.
good night, though. You had a good
did.
night at the plate. Do not sell yourself short.
I did. 3 for 3. Scored 2 runs. Have a huge cut on my leg that's starting to leak blood, so I'm going to go clean that off.
Okay. Heck
TMI.
yeah. Heck yeah. There we go, baby. There we go. Nick Brake making it all happen. We're bouncing back in a big way next week for Nick's Kickball Squad. Hey, we appreciate y'all being dialed in, man. Appreciate y'all making this show what it is. Appreciate y'all locking in. Again, 30 days. 30 days from week 0. From Florida State and Navy getting after it in Dublin, Ireland. Cannot wait for that. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. For Nick Brake, for myself, JD Paquel, we love y'all. We will see y'all next time.